Welcome to T-Bone Speaks with Dr. Tarun Agarwal, where our goal is to change the way you practice dentistry by helping you achieve clinical, financial, and personal balance. Now, here's your host, T-Bone.
All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode, and we're continuing our focus on females and women in dentistry. Again, females and women, I guess, are the same thing, but I don't know if you guys like to be called I definitely couldn't call it girls in dentistry because I don't think that would be appropriate, but certainly we'll call it females and women in dentistry. And today I have with us Dr. Abbey Morales from the west coast of Florida. Abbey, you're from like Marco Island?
I am from, Port Charlotte, actually, which is just north of Fort Myers and south of Tampa, so directly between Tampa and Fort Myers.
Isn't that almost Marco Island? Marco Island's just a little off of Naples, isn't it?
I think that Marco Island's probably about 2 hours south of me.
Oh my God, that far south.
Yeah, it's even further than Fort Myers, so I'm more north than that, yep.
And you're not far from Punta Gorda, correct?
Correct. I'm actually, Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda are kind of one and the same in a sense, so that's where I'm, right there is where I'm from.
You know, I don't know if I mentioned to you that my wife's family has a orange grove / watermelon farm in Punta Gorda. We have 190 acres, I think it is.
Yeah, wow, that's great. Yeah, we actually talked about that at one of the lectures of yours that I went to. So
yeah, in fact, we had initial discussions in 2007 before the housing crash of selling it to some land developers.
Okay.
And that didn't work out. The hurricanes gave us some trouble because some of the land with all, I don't know what year those hurricanes, like 3 or 4 hurricanes came through.
Right, yeah.
But some of the land became a little bit more marshy, or something, or not. I don't understand it. So, but anyway.
Yeah, it did. I don't know what year it was either, but yes, it definitely hit Punta Gorda.
And so at that point, it became a challenge, and then the market crashed, and it's a lot of things there. So.
Yeah, it's growing again, though.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we will hold on to it again and see what happens. You know, it's hers, not mine. I keep saying we, but everything in my life is we. You know, I just like to stick my nose in it.
Of course.
So Abbey, talk to our listeners. Who's Abbey Morales?
Abbey Morales. I'm married. I have no kids. I have 2 dogs.
You have a dog. I saw in your profile picture you have a dog there.
Yeah, and actually since that picture, I actually got another dog. So I have 2 Shih Tzus, and I'm obsessed with them.
You have a Shih Tzu?
Yeah, 2 of them.
I have a multi-Shits.
Oh, okay, great. Oh, such great dogs.
I don't. We gave it away. We gave it to my mom because we couldn't handle it.
Okay, well, you still have it, though.
Oh, yeah, no, he loves me like crazy. When I go visit my mom, he jumps on me, he licks me. It's awesome.
Yes, they're amazing. And they are my kids, and so I don't have any kids. I've been practicing now for 4 years. I went to school out in Arizona.
And you're an associate?
I'm an associate, yep. I'm an associate in a busy practice. A family friend actually is the owner of the practice. He's known me since I was a little kid, so I kind of got really lucky with this position. And I was a teacher before I decided to go on and be a dentist. So I enjoy working with kids. I don't want to only work with children, though, and
kids. How long were you a teacher for?
Just less than a year.
Okay.
Less than a year. I knew right away. 3 months into teaching, I knew it wasn't for me, and so I started taking night classes and kind of had to choose something else.
So you didn't necessarily want to be a dentist?
No, I never really even thought about it. My father's a physician. He's an orthopedic surgeon, so I knew that I did not want to go into medicine. I knew that because he was never around. He was a great father and financially, but he was never around for any of our events. So I knew that's not what I wanted. And so that's when I went like drastically different and went into teaching, but I didn't want that either. So when I decided I needed to change my career, I had to choose something that was going to be kind of family friendly. And that's why I chose dentistry then. But no, it's not something I wanted from the beginning.
52% of all graduating dentists today are female.
I know.
So you went to school in Arizona?
I did.
Where at?
At Midwestern.
Okay, Midwestern. That's in, what is that, Tempe?
It's in Glendale, so right there in
okay.
Phoenix, yep. Mm-hmm. And I was the second class. It was a brand new school. I was the second class.
And how many people were in your class?
110.
And how many females were there?
I believe it was about 50-50.
50-50. Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I graduated of a class of like, I want to say 75, 80 people, and there's probably like 10 or 15 females in my
Wow,
class.
yeah.
And I mean, it's not like I graduated that long ago. I mean, only 18
Right.
years ago, but 1999. But I still think of myself as like early in my career, which is sad, but
No, that's not sad. That's good.
in a way, I think that's more denial. I think my wife has a psychiatrist who called that denial, but
No, I
and the
think that's
fact that I
good.
have no hair left, is part of that as well. And
that's
that
all right.
now I creak when I walk. My body creaks a little bit. That's more because I'm unhealthy and don't take care of myself. But all right. So how did you end up back in Florida?
In my 4th year of school,
What's the exact name of your city, by the way?
Port Charlotte.
Oh, Port Charlotte. Okay.
Port
How'd you end
Charlotte,
up back
yeah.
there? So you grew up there?
No, I grew up in Fort Myers, which is near Port
30
Charlotte.
That's like 20, 30 minutes, right?
20, 30 minutes, that's right. But my owning dentist, he called me when I was like in my 4th year of dental school, and he said, there's a position opening up as an associate. Are you interested? And I said, absolutely. So I pretty much knew my entire 4th year of school that I had a position. That meant I had to move back to Florida. I wasn't planning on moving back here because I loved Arizona. But for this opportunity, I chose to come back.
So what makes it, what in your mind, I mean, obviously you've been there 4 years now, so obviously this is true, but in your mind, what made it a great opportunity that you were willing to move back somewhere that you didn't intend to move back to?
Well, first and foremost, the person himself. I mean, he's a kind person. He's known my family for so many years. He just loves me, loves my family.
Did you go to him as a
So-
dentist?
I did not because of the distance. So I probably would have if he would have been in Fort Myers, but because his practice was in Port Charlotte, I was just too far, and so I didn't go to him. But I mean, he would come over to our house for dinners and play basketball with my brother and my dad. They were
He's your dad's
definitely.
age?
He's mid-40s, so
Okay,
he's younger
he's
than my
not your
dad.
dad's, like, he's not your dad's friend, is he?
No. Well, kind of. I mean, it was between my dad and my brother. So he was more friends of people who sold medical equipment.
I
And
gotcha.
then so they knew my dad through selling medical equipment. And then just for many years of doing that and going to parties together and things like that, they got to know each other. And then the connection came with my brother because my brother was big in basketball. And so they would play basketball together, pick up games, leagues, things like that.
Okay. All right. So, so that's from a person point of view. What else made you want to, essentially not look anywhere else?
Well, also just that it wasn't corporate. I mean, in school, you kind of get scared away from going corporate, And so when I had this chance to go to a private practice, it seemed like I got really lucky because I wasn't going to have to go practice at a corporate office like Aspen or wherever where a lot of my friends were having to apply.
And what made you
So
not
that-
want to do that?
For no other reason than just simply what we had heard, like just when we would be sitting in our classes, like our practice management classes, talking about contracts and production goals and being ethical and not having to make decisions based on, did we meet our quota that month or whatever. I mean, I knew very little.
But you didn't know these things from fact because you didn't actually work there. These are just
Correct.
assumptions.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Okay. And anything about the office itself? Did you understand the type of dentistry they were doing or not doing?
No, not at all. I was very naive. I didn't know anything.
So you just wanted to go there because the guy is a nice guy. It's close
Yes.
to home,
Yes.
and all of those things. You didn't know much about. Hey, this is the kind of dentistry I want to do. Blah blah blah.
Right. I didn't know anything. I just knew that he was very adamant about letting me find me, and he wanted to mentor me and things like that. So he was excited.
And did you want to be
excited.
mentored?
I did, absolutely. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. I was so naive. I just knew I didn't since this was my second career and I was 29 and all this stuff, I didn't want to go do a residency. And so even though I didn't really feel ready, like no one ever feels ready, I just knew I just needed to get out there and start working. So I felt like a mentor was the perfect thing for me.
All right. So let's talk about this mentorship or this mentor relation. From your end, how do you describe a good mentor for you, and how has your experience been on that side of things? Like what stands out to you?
A mentor to me is just someone that I can watch and who I can pick up on things. And in the relationship that I have with my boss, I've been able to see things that I want to take from him, but I've also been able to see things that I don't want to take from him, and incorporate into my own practice and things like that. So it's just someone to learn from.
Yeah. No, I get that. So and what do you do? How do you find time to watch him or to discuss things with him? Do you guys have set times? How does that work?
No, at the very beginning, the first year or so, we share an office. Our computers kind of butt up next to each other, kind of. So he would say, go ahead and click on this patient. And he would say, this is what I would do with this patient. You see the pictures, you see this, that. And he would kind of say what he would do. And it's funny now because then I would chime in with what I had learned. And I feel like Midwestern out in Arizona, they taught me well. I'm very pleased with the education I got. So then I would share back with him what I knew. And then it got to a point where he started asking me instead of like telling me what I would do. He started asking me. And so we kind of went back and forth, and now we kind of just bounce ideas off of each other. But what I do now is I'm always listening. His patients love him. And he has the type of personality that the patients, they believe everything he says, and they will do anything he says, and he's very ethical and trusting. And so sometimes I just stand in the hallway and listen to him.
So you're like a fly on the wall.
Yep, always. I'm always listening. And even the way that he'll make phone calls to doctors and physicians and the specialists in the area and things like that. So I'm always listening and paying attention.
Okay, so let me ask you this on a kind of a tangent from that, but kind of related. How far into practice did your dental school education become obsolete? And what I mean by that is, so what you learned in dental school, how long before you wanted to get beyond that?
You mean and start learning other things, or?
Yeah, but or figuring out that, like, for example, people sometimes they're like, hey, I need to get my speed up. I need to do these things. I need to diagnose better. But at some point in dental school, you learn fillings and crowns, right?
Well, I didn't, and I think that's where things are a little bit different, because with Midwestern being a newer school, they had a different philosophy. They really looked at us as colleagues and comprehensive care. They took it like they would assign us patients, but we didn't have certain numbers we had to meet in order to graduate. They really said, like, this is your patient. So we'd have to do the comprehensive exam. If they needed implants, then that's what we did. If they needed
as undergrad students.
Yeah, well, since I was only the second class and there was no specialty programs, there were no residents, there were no oral surgery residents or perio residents, and so
is that still the case there?
It is still the case, okay. And they said it right from the beginning. They wanted us to be able to be well-rounded and choose. Now, they also taught us very well when is it right to refer and things like that, But they really truly wanted us to be able to do it all, and then we'd be able to choose. So I did implants, I did root canals, we did crown lengthening procedures, things that would have normally been given to a resident. I got to do. So it wasn't just crowns and it wasn't just things.
All right. Okay, so that's good.
They also focused a lot on practice management, which was different.
Did they have Gary Tackickson at that time?
I'm sorry, what? No.
No, because now I know Gary's doing some of the practice. He goes there and speaks pretty regularly now. But go ahead. So they focus on practice management.
Yeah, and we had classes that were focused on practice management and things. So I just felt like I didn't know this at the time, but now looking back on it, I was so prepared. And even if you ask my boss, he is very, very pleased with where I am. And he's told me this all the time, that he compares me to someone who's been out 10 to 12 years instead of 4 years.
And that could, I think a lot of that might be your personality and or your disposition, in the sense that you're humble and wanting to learn and all of those things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've met a lot of people that think they're 10 to 12 years out, but, you know, so.
But I mean, as far as my education, I depend on that every single day. I still go back to the basics. I feel like I do well, and I'm happy with where my speed is and things like that. But I do find myself always kind of going back to the basics and thinking about things still. It's still just 4 years, so I'm still pretty new.
All right, so let's talk about education while we're on that subject. How much education have you, what are some of the things that you've done since dental school to learn more?
Well, I kind of started taking some implant things, just like weekend courses. Not any special names or anything. Some different weekend things for Invisalign and trying to learn more about that. But
Do you like Invisalign?
I like that my patients like that I do it.
Okay.
I have a lot of patients ask me about Invisalign. They're very interested, and for me, it's quote unquote profitable because of the way that I've been able to work out how I get paid off of Invisalign in the practice. But do I actually like doing it? Not really.
Okay. All right.
I honestly, T-Bone, I don't really like doing much, so I do the Invisalign, and I'm trying to find what it is that I do like. Does that make sense?
To a certain degree, but I would challenge you that 4 years in, you got to know something that you like.
Well, right. I mean, it's hard for me because if I were to describe myself, I kind of describe myself as like a perfectionist. Well, like I kind of like everything, but I don't have one particular thing that interests me a lot.
So
I'm
you
still
haven't found your
trying
passion yet.
Right, exactly. So, but I try, like I said, I went down a couple of different paths, and then I'm really starting to get into sleep, and that's how I met you, obviously. And I've started taking courses at the Dawson Academy here in St. Pete in Florida. And I've met some really great people, and kind of that more
John and Len Hess. I know John Cranon pretty well, and Len Hess is great.
Yeah.
Both, I'm sure they're all great, but I know those two pretty well.
Yeah, they're excellent. And so, I've gotten to the point now where I feel like I can do the fillings and the crowns and produce the number.
So what made you get into the Dawson Academy?
The owner of the practice, my boss, he is on the faculty out at Spear in Arizona.
Okay.
And he just has, he goes to the study groups, and he has such a connection with these, and when he has questions about cases or whatever, he can call in this group of people and his peers, and he's so passionate about it. He's actually taking a team of us, 7 of us, out to some training out in Arizona. So, he's very passionate, and I just really admired that. But I also wanted to kind of, to go out to Arizona every time I wanted to take a course or something like that, just seemed like a lot with student loans and everything. So,
okay. And a husband.
And 2 dogs, of course.
Yeah,
so
no, we gotta worry about the Shih Tzus.
Of course. I needed to find something closer to me that seemed more reasonable, where I could start to maybe build that community and that feeling.
The training isn't actually less expensive, I don't think.
No, it's not less expensive. It's not. It's definitely not less expensive, but the travel time and time off work and things like that is what.
Yeah, that becomes a little bit easier. So let me ask you this: one of the biggest challenges I have with younger dentists or younger out of school dentists is many of them have this aversion to take really high level training. And it seems that you're a bit different in that sense. A lot of them are different, but you're definitely different. Because the Dawson Academy or Spear and things like that. That's not low grade education that you get at study clubs or that you get at society meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just have learned that if I go to the little weekend courses that only cost me a couple $100, that I don't really feel like I learn anything. I feel like it's a waste of my time sometimes.
Well, sometimes they're sales pitches in a way, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And or chances for people to brag.
Yeah.
People want to start bragging about what cases they did, and it's like, oh gosh. So I felt like for me to get more out of it, maybe I need to spend a little bit more money. And so I did, and I got so much out of it. Felt like it was so rewarding. So it really wasn't, there was no question there. I felt like I got more out of the Dawson Academy than I did at a course at a dental practitioner.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So, and you mentioned student loans. So you came out of school with student loans?
Oh yes.
How much, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, between what I took out for living expenses and things like that, it was definitely over 400,000.
Over $400,000.
And with interest and everything now, I'm up at about 550.
Okay, now you're up to 550 with interest and all of that nonsense.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird. You almost have to just kind of act
What's
like
the monthly
it's not
payment
there.
on this? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, no, I'm on an income-based situation right now, and so every year I have to give them my tax refund so that they can figure it out. But right now I'm paying about $1,700 a month, and then that'll change next year when they ask me for my tax stuff again. And
Okay. So
so,
does that play a role in some of the decisions you to make?
oh, for sure, it played a role in what kind of house I chose to live in. It plays a role in what kind of vacations and how much I want to work. And
But hell, you live in paradise or near
yeah,
paradise.
yeah, no, it's a beautiful area. But yeah, it does. And I had to decide, do I want to live on an income-based repayment plan and still live a life and enjoy myself a little bit, or do I want to just pay $10,000 a month and live no life? And I chose not to do that. So I still, I try to take Fridays off every once in a while and try to still spend time with my husband and go on vacation. So there's two different ways I could have gone, and I chose that way instead of living like a student for 10 more years.
And
So I tried.
what made you be an associate for 4 years now? Why do you desire to own?
Not right now. Not right now. I don't really know. I don't really know what I want to do. So it's
Is it
the thought
because you're
of
not sure about where you want to live?
a little bit. Just with my position right now, I'm able to pay my bills and kind of get by, and I'm still learning a lot every day, and I have a lot of freedom to do things in the practice that I'm in. Like, for example, with Steve, if I want to implement something in the office, he lets me. So it's a very
So you kind of have
good.
the best of both worlds right now.
Yeah, and I don't really want to mess that up right now. I don't have that strong desire to go and own my own practice. There's a part of me that still thinks I might want to end up in a university setting, maybe, and maybe a dental school or something like that, because I do love education so much. So I don't
And you
really
were
know
a
yet.
teacher.
Yeah, exactly. I was a teacher, and so I just don't know yet. I can't
Well,
believe it's been 4 years.
it's gone by pretty quick, hasn't it?
It's gone by extremely quickly.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. So talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you're doing in your practice. Like, are you a digital practice? How have you taken to some of that stuff?
Yes, we do. We are a digital practice.
And what does that
We
mean by
have,
that? What do you mean by digital
well,
practice?
I mean, we have the digital imaging and things like that, and we just recently had a CBCT machine installed, although it's not really being used yet. So that's in the probably next couple of weeks or whatever.
So when you say just
But
recently had it installed, how long ago did you have it put in?
it's been in for about a month, but there's some different stipulations, some different testing things that are going on with it.
Okay, so I mean, literally, it was just put in. A month ago is like
Oh
not
yeah,
that far.
yeah,
Okay, it's not like it's
yeah.
been just put in.
Training
Like
thing.
I had somebody said I just got my machine. It's been like 9 months.
Oh yeah, no, it's brand new, and we still have to do the training, staff training, and
And
things
when you
on
say
it.
digital imaging, you're talking about X-rays.
Yeah, X-rays, and we have a scanner. We started off with the E4D
Okay.
CAD CAM technology, and then he updated to the Trios and 3Shape software. So there was kind of that discussion between that and Sarek, and he went with the Trios and 3Shape CAD CAM. And for me personally, I mean, I learned it in school, and I do it every once in a while, or when a patient requests a same day crown or something like
With
that,
the
then
E4D.
yes. With any, yeah.
But you can't do that with the Trios, I don't think.
Well, we don't have, it's not E4D anymore. We have a Trio scanner, and then we have the 3Shape software for the design software. So E4D is outdated, although, anyways.
Yeah. So how
I'm
are
not
you
a
guys
fan.
milling the crowns in office?
It's the same mill. I don't really know the actual mill itself, but it's the same mill that he was using with the E4D
Okay, so
system.
you're using the E4D mill to
Right.
mill things.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So that's a little bit. So you have one camera that transferred to one software, then that transfers to another software to do the milling.
Correct. And it's a mess, and it's really confusing, and we're always on the phone with technical support. And so I've gotten to a point where I just don't really use it anymore. My boss uses it every single day. He does single unit crowns. He uses it every single day. So I have not. I've gotten away from it. I know how to use the technology. I see the benefit of it, but it just doesn't work out between the two doctors.
I gotcha. So there's some logistical issues there for you.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And I don't like the product either.
That's okay. I don't want to go into all that stuff. So
No, I know.
So let me ask you this: give me one or two pieces of advice that you would give for another, female graduating dental school, looking back 4 years into it now. What would you say that you would probably do? Maybe recommend them to do differently.
I guess just you mean like a student looking back on a female dental student?
Yeah, no, I'm saying at post graduation, let's pretend, hey, it's June, right? So let's say, hey, I just graduated a month ago, okay, and so I'm sitting down with Abby. I'm 4 years out of school. What advice would you say that you would probably do differently that you would tell somebody else?
I don't know if I would do anything differently. I mean, I guess my advice would be to continue to learn and not to get comfortable. And, that's been, I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly reading and going to different things. I have spent a lot of money on different courses and products and things, just always trying to learn something. So, and asking a lot of questions. I wouldn't say that I would do a whole lot differently.
Okay, that's good. I mean, I'm not saying you should. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I would say what you just said is very important. Now, you said something that stuck out to me a little bit. You're doing reading and stuff. So one of the challenges I get, and even though you were in the shoe, you found a way around it, or you chose to certainly prioritize differently, is that education doesn't have to cost money to a certain degree.
Right.
Education, I say education occurs from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. You can read books, you listen to podcasts, you can watch YouTube videos, you can participate in Facebook groups, Dental Town.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many opportunities for learning. You can have a mentor, whether that's somebody you work with or somebody in a study group or study club. There's so many opportunities, and that's essentially kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when I go to something and they recommend a certain book that they learned a lot from, then I usually go and purchase that book. And so, I mean, I guess that costs money, but it's not real expensive.
$100 maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And then I can read that book and
can you give
use
me
that
an
as a
example
resource.
of one?
I can't think of the title right now, but I know in my course with you recently when I came up to Raleigh, Aaron had recommended a book on sleep.
Oh yeah,
medicine.
I can't think of it off the top of my head either.
Yeah.
But it's a good sleep apnea book.
Yeah, and
it's
it's
actually
excellent.
quite good.
Yeah, it's really good. And I go back to my textbooks, and actually I use my board study materials for reference as well. But that sleep apnea book that Aaron recommended is actually the one I'm reading right now. So that's a good example of
one of my favorite books is that I've had for 10 years now is Paul Homley's Making It Easy for Patients to Say Yes.
Okay.
I read it every year.
Yeah, and see, that's probably one I'll go buy now.
And then, the other books I had, and these don't interest you because it's implant based, but I own the Carl Misch books.
Yeah.
And when I was first starting my journey, the first 2 to 3 years in, I was reading that book over and over again.
Right.
And because
Yeah, and
you know,
I actually,
it's like when you watch a movie, you don't get everything the first time. And that's
right.
one of the nice things about books is you can go back and read it. And same thing with podcasts and videos, you can go back and revisit it. So
Exactly.
Paul Homley's book, it's like literally like $25 on Amazon.
Okay.
But it's fantastic. In fact, I actually all right, I bought like 6 copies and I gave them out to team members. So I'm making team members read it right now. I shouldn't say
Okay.
making them. I'm giving
Yes.
them the opportunity to read it right now. Tomorrow at lunch, I'm leading a kind of like a discussion group about it. Get to kind of see where people, what they've learned and stuff, to kind of hold them accountable and see where we need some additional help.
So then let me ask you this. So let's say tomorrow at lunch when you start asking the questions and it's apparent that someone hasn't read because you didn't make them, but they
I
didn't
mean, I do
do
make
what
them,
you
but I don't make
suggested.
them legally, I guess.
So what do you do then? Because it's pretty clear, I would imagine, when someone hasn't.
Yeah, so
Right.
I've reminded everybody like multiple times, kind of when I give them the books so I give people a book or an audio download. So because everybody learns a little bit differently. And I kind of tell people up front, I say, listen, this is very important to me because ultimately we have to grow and you have to grow as a person. And I tell people one of the parts of this exercise is to find out if you're willing and interested in growing. Because if you're the person that doesn't want to read this or put the time into it, I totally respect it. But I want you to
Right.
know that the likelihood of you being here 6 months from now is pretty low.
Okay.
Okay, so you preface it like that.
Okay.
And then I have no problem calling people out somewhat kindly during the discussion. I'll say, hey, that's a bit disappointing. Maybe we should do that. Listen, if they don't understand things, that's the point of the discussion, right?
Yeah.
But I'll be shocked if any of my team members didn't, with good intentions, listen to or read the book. Because quite frankly, I just don't have people like that around me.
Yeah, and that's one of the struggles I have because since I am the associate in the practice, whenever I am trying to change something or implement something, whatever, I have trouble getting other people on.
Yeah,
because I
and a
don't
lot of
have the
that may be
ability
because you quote unquote you're not the boss.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So I think one of the things I would coach you on that is it sounds like you have a pretty positive relationship with your employer.
Yeah.
Is I would say, hey, listen, I'm having a struggle with this. I really would like to see this work in the practice. Could you do me a favor and kind of authorize or empower me and the team to understand that this is important? And I don't think there's anything wrong. I obviously do that in private,
Right.
And I tell my associate the same thing. Say, listen, if you're getting pushed back on something that's important to you or it holds you back from growing in the practice from growing, I want you to let me know about it. And I tell them, here's how I'm going to handle it. If it's a sensitive subject, I'll deal with somebody one-on-one.
Right.
But if it's not a sensitive subject, I'm going to, as a group in front of everybody, I'm going to say, listen, guys, Dr. Ledes, who's with us right now, and I'm going to say, hey, Dr. Ledes brought it to my attention that this is an area where he needs you guys' participation and assistance. He's talked to me about what's important to him. I 100% am on board with this, so it's important to me. But I'm going to let him drive this. Okay, I'm going to let him be the leader of this.
Okay.
And so I try to empower him. I don't just tell people, I don't want people to do things because I tell them to do it.
Right.
I want to give him ownership and that mentality of being a leader in that area, especially if it's an area that doesn't appeal to me.
Right.
Like making this up as an example, okay? Let's say he wanted to treat more kids. Like that has zero appeal to me.
Right.
But if it's important to the practice and important to him and I like him, I would tell the team, listen, this is important to him, therefore it's important to me in the practice. I'm going to let him lead this. Okay. Now, if he was talking about something that's super important to me and I selfishly I like it, I'm going to try to probably be involved in that a little bit more. But the example I'll give is we're going to implement tongue ties, lasering tongue ties for infants in the practice. I have zero interest in that. So he's in charge of that. I've talked to the team and with him on board, I say, listen, Dr. Leedy is going to be running this program just like when I brought implants in. I ran that and I moved that forward. Everybody, it's, our role in this is to support him and to hold him accountable and for him to hold us accountable and moving this forward. And so I try to do that with the team there. We meet as a team every day for 15 minutes in the morning. I try not to do those kind of things then. And then we meet as a team every month. And then, we're a pretty tight-knit group. So we'll end up having lunch together, and I try not to interrupt the lunch a lot. I'll say, hey, listen, real quick, couple of minutes, let's talk about this, and then back to lunch.
Nice. Okay.
But you got to express what your concerns are, or it'll never get better, and then you can only blame yourself.
Yeah, I'm not good at that. So so in that sense, I do blame myself.
Yeah, or just email it to him. Worst case. Now, I know people give people a hard time. Like, oh my God, if it takes writing an email or a text to get it started and being passive aggressive that way, I'm that way sometimes with certain things. Then just do it that way. I mean, if that's what it takes for you to get started, do it that way. But at some point, hopefully you'll get more comfortable with some of those things.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's your success, right?
Yeah. Right.
So you're in control of your own success. So you've got to do whatever it takes to be control. I want to tell people is, to a certain degree, I want you to be selfish, not self-centered. Okay?
Yeah.
But selfish in the sense that you control your own destiny, you control your own success. So whatever position you're in, if you stay there, and I know you're happy, so I'm not trying to insinuate that, but if you stay in a position where you're unhappy or you don't grow, that's your own fault. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So if you don't at least say something about where you're not getting the support, that's your own fault. Now, if you say things like that and it still doesn't change or get better, that's a different story. So I think you got to be certainly more involved in that.
Okay. I think that's a good idea. I'll email him tonight.
Yeah. So, just give him a heads up. Hey, I'm going to send you an email. I know we have a great, just give people a heads up. Say like, hey, Abby, listen, I'm going to email you tonight. I know we have a great relationship, but, I'm a little uncomfortable about certain things, and I'm going to email you as a way to get the conversation started, and then you tell me what the next step is beyond that.
Great.
And just give them a heads up.
Yeah. Okay.
I think there's nothing wrong with that. I tell my wife that all the time. I'm going to email you something that I don't like, and then if you don't respond to it, I'll totally understand that I should never bring it up again.
Yeah, that's what text message is for now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm going to text her here in a few minutes, even though she's in another room from me. So to make me dinner or something. No, I'm totally kidding. Totally
I know.
Kidding. That's yeah. All right, so let's talk about your goals a little bit. So, what are your short-term goals, personally and professionally? Where do you want to be 1, 2, 3 years from now?
Personally, I kind of want to, like I said earlier, try to figure out what it is that's going to make me happy on a day-to-day basis, happier as far as what dental procedures I'm passionate about, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I need to work on how I can try to get it across to the team when it's not coming off as, I get frustrated. I get very frustrated when I constantly am asking for something done. So I need to do better at training on how I want it done, kind of thing.
If you don't mind me interrupting, I would say what you're talking about is understanding how to be a leader versus being a boss.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So bosses are people that tell people what to do. Leaders
Right.
are people that help people do some of those things to make your life a little bit easier. Thank you.
Yeah. And then where I'm at right now, I just take over and do it instead of trying to train someone on how I might want it done. I get overwhelmed.
Here's what I would tell you on that.
Mm-hmm.
My experience has shown me that good and semi-good even people want to be led. They want people do what they do because, generally speaking, because they want to be good at it, or they want to make an impact. They want to make a difference. Mm-hmm. And when you don't help them grow by just doing it themselves, and I suffer from this, or I suffered from this much worse than I do now, you're not helping them grow. And you're not allowing them to support you in the practice as well as they could by holding things in. And not expressing or not sharing or not taking some time to say, hey, that, and the best time to do it is that day.
Yeah.
That day, not the next day. Because the next day people go home. Like, think about this. What do you remember that you did yesterday or that didn't go well yesterday? It's already forgotten, right?
Yes.
You came home, you got dogs, you got kids, you got to cook dinner, whatever it is that you do, right?
Yeah.
And then the next day is the next day, right? So one of the things I employed in my practice that you can employ, now certainly I'm the boss, right? So I can, I'm the owner at least, I should say, right?
Yes.
But I don't think there's any different. And I've seen my associate do that, where he'll just nip it in the bud. That doesn't mean anything negative. That also means positives, right? So one of the things that I did, and you can figure out how to make this your own, is with new people or areas that I'm struggling in, is I tell my team members to stop by and see me every day and spend 2 minutes with me. Don't ask me if there's anything to talk about. Just sit down, spend 2 minutes with me. Let's have a conversation. And if you ever sense frustration from me, I need you to come talk to me and say, what was that frustration? Here's how it made me feel as the team member, and this is how, and then I can go, this is how it made me feel, and then I can provide the solution to say, this is how I would like to have gone. Like I have this thing. Team members know in my office, if I grab the mouse from you, that's not a good sign.
Right.
Okay, especially with hygiene. If I'm grabbing the mouse and I'm taking control, that means you're not leading me along the way, right? And I'm a typical man. I want to be led. I want to walk in the hygiene room and I want you to walk me through step by step the things that are important for me to deal with, right?
Right.
And so when I have to take the mouse, that means I'm having to figure that out and I'm having to lead the conversation.
Right.
So I tell them when that happens, that's your first sign that we need to sit down that day and just address that. Hey, Dr. A, I noticed that on XYZ patient today, you grabbed the mouse, and let's go ahead and figure out what that was about.
Gotcha. I like that.
But the first thing for you is, because you're a little somewhat hesitant, is that you're going to have to tell them, get permission to a certain degree from them, be okay. Because sometimes people are afraid to approach you, maybe. Not you personally, but anybody.
Oh, no, they definitely are. I've been told that. They're afraid to approach me because I do come off as being negative, or like, for example, when I would take the mouse, because I do that, I'll take the mouse and
That's why your eyebrows raised when I said that.
Yes. So they do tell me that it's difficult to approach, but I mean, starting off too, again, something that is my fault is I have trouble saying, okay, for 4 years we've been doing it this way, but now starting now, I want you to lead me by doing this, this, and this. It's like it's that initial getting started off, you know.
Because in the beginning they're hesitant, they have doubt. Like, is this a test? Because we men, with you women, who are always worried about, is this a test? Is this the right question? All of that stuff. So look.
Yeah.
So here's what I would tell you: these things that you're talking about, okay. And I think one of the traps, and I think this is a really good point, one of the traps I see in young dentists, and I define young as 0 to 10 years out of school, okay?
Right, yeah.
One of the things I see in young dentists is that we spend a lot of time learning clinical techniques. Mm-hmm. Some of us spend time learning business technique, and very few of us spend time learning leadership technique.
Yes.
And leadership isn't going to a leadership class necessarily. Leadership is about communication.
Right.
It's about how we communicate with people around us, how we communicate. I mean, you've been married. How long have you been married now?
I've been with my husband for 16 years.
Okay, so I'm assuming communication there took some time to develop.
I've changed a lot, yes. I have
and
definitely
he's changed a
been
lot
able
too, correct?
Yes.
I got to stick up for the men in this, okay? And you consistently change as you get older, as your lives change, as different things happen in your life, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So our team members are no different. It's about communication, okay? It's about being humble, about showing humility, about being, to a certain degree, their advocate. You want to see them succeed. And it has to be genuine. Okay?
Yeah.
Because selfishly, if you want to be successful, you will hit a brick wall or a plateau about how successful you can be about what kind of procedures you can do if you don't engage with your team and
Right.
get them to love you and trust you.
Right.
Because they can undermine. I'm not saying this is happening. I'm just saying if we don't
Right.
put these things in place, they can undermine you. That person
Yeah.
who comes in and wants to do the cosmetic case that you're learning how to do at Dawson Training, suddenly they're on
Yeah.
your owner doctor schedule.
Yeah.
Because, they,
Now, let me ask you this though, too. This brings me to a whole nother standpoint. Like I feel like I am their advocate, and what happens is they come to me so often with things that are going on, but then I don't have the ability to like change those in the practice. So it's a strange thing because I
but be
am
their
the
advocate in helping those things get changed.
yeah, which means I just need to email my boss.
In a perfect world, you would have a conversation with him. But
Yes.
if an email is what gets the conversation started,
Started.
that would be awesome.
I will do that.
Okay? Because an email or a text conversation is absolutely better than no conversation at all.
Yeah. So how did you kind of learn to be this leader? It's not something that happens overnight or
No,
with one book.
I would say that I'm probably, I don't think I'm the leader I want to be or need to be. I would just say I'm less worse than most people. I think for me, a lot of it has to do with being confident in myself, but without, sometimes confidence in yourself can be arrogance. I would like to think that I'm not totally arrogant.
I don't think you're arrogant.
Well, thank you very much. My wife would disagree with you sometimes. But, I think it comes with just admitting your mistakes, letting
Yeah.
people know, supporting them.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with the words we use. I was listening to or reading something. I can't remember if I was listening or reading something, and it said one of the things he says a good characteristic of a leader is the person who speaks last.
Okay. Yeah.
Because too often we talk too much and say too much, and we give our opinion first. And really what we're doing is we're looking for affirmation of our opinion from
Yeah.
team members when we ask them what they think about this. Whereas in other words, if you walk in and say, here's our challenge, I'd like to get your thoughts on this challenge. A, do you believe it's a challenge? What are your thoughts on that? And then B, if it is an area of improvement, what are your suggestions for improvement? And allow
Nice.
them to speak first, and then you speak last.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
instead of providing the solution that you want to believe, listen to people. Let them talk. Let them have a voice. People want to feel like they belong, like they're part of something. People want that badly, and so I think that would be one piece of advice: is to allow them to speak last,
Yeah.
allow them to give
Okay.
input.
Okay.
And certainly on the things that you can control, which is patient care directly on the patient that you're working on, how
Yeah.
you want your day to run, how you want your certain procedures to run, how you want your communication when you're doing hygiene checks to be. So those things that you can control are the first areas of being that way. And part of, I think, leadership is leading by example.
Right.
For example, I know every one of my team members will tell you that there's two very particular things that I'm very weird about. One is we don't come in or leave from the front door to the building.
Right.
As team members, we all come in and leave from the back. I never want a patient to see us coming in. I'm unbelievably funny about that.
Okay.
And number two is we start our day at 7:45 and 0 seconds. Not
Yeah.
7:45 and 1 seconds. You can not participate in the meeting.
Yeah.
So they know I'm particular about that. And for me to be particular about that, I have to lead by example. And that
Yes.
example is I don't walk in and out of the front door.
Right.
And I will always be at work by 7:30 in the morning. And if I'm not going to be at work by 7:30 in the morning, I will text somebody right away and say, listen, this morning this is going to happen, and I will not be there at 7:30 in the morning or 7:40 in the morning or whatever it may be. I don't text them at 7:40, say, hey, I'm running late, because I already knew I was running late.
Yeah.
So I'll text them at 7 o'clock or 7:15 and say, hey, this has come up, or this is what it is, and I'll lead by example in that sense. And what happens is then through osmosis, people learn that that's what you want.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Sounds so simple.
Well, it's not simple. I mean, it's
I
simple, but
know.
not so simple, right? And the
Yeah.
other thing I think that's important in leadership are the words we use. Like for example, the hot buttons. So if you say some words to your husband, that is likely going to create a response, correct?
Yes.
And he probably knows the words if he say to you, that's going to create the response, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so dealing with people at work is no different than that. They're our work wives or our work husbands or our work brothers, our work sisters, our work moms, our work dads.
Yeah.
And so we have to learn with people what makes people tick, right? Or
Yeah.
what makes people, not tick. And so we have to learn to use the right words with them over time. And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean cuddle people. Okay,
Right.
that just means to understand how people want to be talking to each other.
Yeah.
Just treat people like I tell the team at the office. I say, just treat me like your husband or your boyfriend. Okay, tell me where to go, what to eat, what I'm supposed to do, where I'm supposed to be, what time I'm supposed to, show up. Tell me where
Yeah.
those things are. And like a husband or a boyfriend, if you
You
say
will do
something
it.
to me that I don't like, I'll say to you, hey, I prefer not to do this way.
Yes.
Like today's Sunday, and I needed to go see a patient at 6 o'clock. And it was a patient I needed help with my assistant at. I asked Whitney, I said, hey, Whitney, I need to see a patient. If you've got something going on, I totally understand, but I'd really love your help with this. And she goes, listen, I'll make it work, but let's get it done at 6 o'clock or before 7 o'clock, so that way I can kind of go do what I got to do. And I said, great. Thank you for telling me what works for you. So that
Right.
way I can try to do something that works for both of us.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of times it's about affirmation and telling people what's working and not working.
Yeah. Okay.
And go to lunch with people sometimes.
Well, I've tried to stay away from that because when I first started working, I was told that I was becoming friends with these people. I was becoming too close of friends. So then I kind of had to, I think that's part of the disconnect also, is then I took like the
I
other
said occasionally
extreme.
go to lunch with them, not
Yeah,
every day.
I need to. I
You
need
know.
to though.
You know,
Yeah.
and
Well, no, it wasn't every
everybody's
day, but
personality has I'm talking about dentists. And, dentists have a comfort level with how close they want to be to people or
Yeah.
not be to people. I'm the kind of person that's happy to hang out with people every day. But I
Yeah.
try to make it a point that, I mentally at least, I make it a point to have lunch with a department every month.
Okay.
Now that
Yeah.
may be off-site, that may be on-site, but I try to go and sit with people, and they don't even know I'm doing it half the time.
Yeah.
I kind of do it selfishly in my own way. I'll go back, I'll see, hey, a couple of my hygienists are hanging out in the back, eating lunch. For 20, 30 minutes, I'll go back there, I'll chit-chat with them a little bit, see what's going on in their life, kind of bring up some things and
Yeah.
go from there. It's a subtle way of interjecting things.
Right.
So, but I don't try to have lunch with people every day. I mean,
Yeah.
I probably would just because I'm that way, but it sounds like that may not be the right personality fit for you.
No, I think that just being young and having everybody else kind of around me is a younger, the dental assistants, the hygienists are younger. And I was just cautioned that I should not become friends with them.
I think you can't be a great leader if people don't know you and you don't know your people.
Yeah.
So,
And it's a constant learning process. I mean, sometimes I have to remind myself that it's only been 4 years, and there are times that I get in over my head, and I will still learn. I can't be discouraged.
no, I totally get that. So, well, I don't want to harp on the leadership stuff too much. I think it's unbelievably important.
Yeah.
I think some of Homley's stuff will be great for you. It's a $20, $30 book. It's a $10 MP3 download. I think it's too cheap personally, but it is unbelievably good. And find one thing to focus on with your team members, and
Yeah.
just focus on perfecting, or not perfecting. I should use that word. Focus on getting that to where you and them are happy with it, and then implement something else.
Yeah. And right now it's sleep.
So let's talk
I'm
about
actually, I'm going to bring some people. I finally found someone that I think I want to be my
that. Champion.
champion.
Awesome.
And we have a whiteboard up in our kind of our
Good.
common area, and we've got some different lines drawn on it. And right now we have about probably 12 to 15 patients that have taken sleep tests. They have their diagnosis, and then they have high deductibles.
Okay, so that's your book of business for July, August, September, October, November, December.
Right. So, but and one of my questions for you too, now we've kind of come to the standstill where we have all these patients, we have their sleep tests, we have all the way up to this certain point, and you have them motivated, but then they don't accept because they're high deductible.
Okay, so your sleep champion is losing motivation a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, because we only have started one appliance.
Okay.
So it's kind of, you get all pumped up and then it's,
Are you guys leveraging medical insurance?
yes.
So now, real quick, on a word of caution on the medical insurance, because
Okay.
you keep saying they have a high deductible. Not every plan has the same deductible for E0486, the sleep appliance.
Okay.
So sometimes is your front office team getting, or third party, whoever you're using, actually doing a check specifically for E0486?
I believe so. Yeah, it's a
Okay.
third party, and I believe they
Are you using Hutan?
No,
Okay.
we're not.
Okay, so just do a double check because, for example, there are specific plans here that we've seen where their deductible is $4,000, let's say, right? But the
Okay.
deductible doesn't apply to E0486.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not going to say that's going to be suddenly all of your patients, okay? It's going to be a minority, or maybe even none in your area, okay?
Okay.
But make sure that they're looking specifically at that.
Okay.
Okay, so when they're doing the benefit check, it can't just be they're getting their deductible, just assuming it
That's-
applies across the board. It's likely also there's a chance, okay, a small chance, that maybe the deductible doesn't apply to E0486 or any other durable medical equipment.
Okay.
So make sure that either your front office or your third party services is doing a firm check on that. Now,
Okay.
so on this, so we experienced this as well, okay? So the first thing is what I would coach you on this is, have you done sleep tests on all the team members and their bed partners?
No.
Okay.
We started to when I first came back we first got our Medibites. Yes, I started to, but then I got away from it and haven't thought about it since.
Okay.
So there's about 4 of the 15 that have taken one, but that's
Okay.
it.
And the reason I bring that up is one of the things is part of getting beyond the deductible. So it's my belief that it's our obligation to give our patients the chance to say yes to the best.
Right.
Okay. So just because they have a high deductible doesn't mean the case acceptance process ends, correct? We have
Right.
to give our patients the option to pay out of pocket. If your patient needed surgery, would they say, well, I have a high deductible, so I'm not getting surgery?
Right.
Okay,
No.
they would find a way, correct?
Right. Yes.
So that's part of it. And so one of the things that we have found is that when we started testing our team members and or their bed partners, and we put a few of them in appliances, suddenly they became raving fans, and the
Okay.
patients picked up on that, right? And then when
Yes.
you can look at a patient and say, "Listen, I get it. Let me tell you about my husband, or let me tell you about my boyfriend, or let me tell you about Miss Sally Joe's Sally Joe in our practice, our hygienist."
Right.
Okay. So what I'm telling you is this product works. This can make a big difference in your life. So if you can find a way to make this work, we'd love to help you with this. Okay. But if
Okay.
finances get in the way, we totally understand that. Okay. And then get permission then. Remember to then say, with your permission, what I'd like to do is recheck your benefits XYZ month to see where we
Okay.
stand. Okay. And then, so that's one part of it, correct?
Yeah.
Another part of it is offering financial options to your patients, third party, internal payment plans, whatever it may be, to allow your patients to make it more affordable.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now another part of this will be, it's also about just making sure you double check with them when they're ready to go. And then on this also is you need to sit down with the person that you identify as your champion, and you need to say, listen, I'm assuming it's a female person, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you need to say, listen, are they married?
No, but
They have
kind
a
of,
boyfriend,
yeah.
kind of?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, they have a long-term boyfriend?
Yes.
Okay. So sometimes you had to go a little bit of fishing before you found the right person, correct?
Yes.
So we're going to go fishing a lot. And then what we're doing today, what we're doing right now is we're planting seeds for what we're going to harvest in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Okay.
So the success that you're going to have in your practice, the first and second quarters, generally speaking, set you up for the third and fourth quarter.
Okay.
Okay. So you're going to have to plant some seeds. And what you got to do is you got to remind them of the importance of planting seeds.
Okay.
Okay. And you got to just keep motivating them on that.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good way of putting it.
I mean, down where you're at, just telling you planting orange groves, like orange trees.
Yeah. Well, I kind of said that, but I like that analogy because I said, it's right now it's about awareness. It'll come around, that kind of thing. But I'll use that analogy.
And for us, that's the point of the board.
Yeah.
When we had our board, at one point we had like 60 people on that board.
Right.
And I would tell them last year, in March, April, May last year, I said, listen, the bigger this list becomes, the better things are going to be in November and December.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And I would tell them, I promise you, if you make this list this big, we will get here. But if you make this list only this big, we won't get there. Okay.
Okay.
And that to me is the point of the list is to show people where we're at, to have defined goals about where we want to be with it, and to show them, because they now know. Just because somebody says no today, they're like, oh, that's okay. So maybe in November, December, that person will come around.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So you just got to keep people motivated, keep yourself motivated, and going from there. And that's part of that.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Abby, you got any other questions for me?
I don't. I kind of made a list here, so let me see if I went through them here.
I mean, you could email them to me. I'm giving you a hard time.
I know you are. Just kind of like the advice. Actually, the best advice that anyone has ever given me was my mom telling me, "Don't have kids."
Don't have kids.
She says they're too much work.
What does that say about you?
They're a pain in the butt. Don't have kids is what she tells me.
But was she talking about you when she said that?
Yeah, she was.
Okay.
She said they're a pain in the butt, and she wishes she never had kids so she could have a life. No, I'm just teasing. But no, I'm all set here. I'm good.
All right. Well, Abby, it's been wonderful having you on. It's been a good conversation. For me, it's been a good conversation. I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of this from the back and forth that we had and some of the things that we talked about. And, I want you to do well. I want you to find your passion, And so my last advice on finding your passion. In the beginning, one of the things I said, and you mentioned it too, was that sometimes you don't learn a lot or whatever it is from dental conventions. Mm-hmm. When I was trying to find my passion, going to events where there were a lot of speakers was unbelievably important to me, because it allowed me to see lots of different things and hear from lots of different speakers. Okay. And what that allowed me to do is to see what speaker resonated with me, what type of education resonated with me, and the procedures that resonated with me. And I think one of the best, or some of the best places to do that are large meetings, because there'll be that many speakers. Like close by to you would be like maybe the Hinman Dental meeting or the FDA. Or, for example, if you're into restorative and cosmetic work, go to the Florida Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. They have a great chapter there in Florida. Okay. And so, and then obviously, bias like the Dentsply Sirona World and, meetings like that where there's so many opportunities that are relatively affordable to get an opportunity to listen to 20, 30, 40, 50 different speakers or different things. And everything's like hour and a half, to where you're like, oh my God, I didn't waste 3 days on something I didn't want to learn.
Right.
Okay, I wasted an hour and a half, and then you just move on to the next one. It's like speed dating.
Yeah.
Okay. So you go to a convention and you speed date, and you just find out all these different things. You find out what's great for you, and then you dive in deeper.
Okay.
And so I would encourage you to find your passion before you continue along some of these journeys that you're on.
Yeah.
Find your passion. It sounds like you actually do like sleep, so that's good to hear. So
far.
and so learn more about that, and find some other people in your area that are great at it, and mentor them, and get with a sleep physician. Have your dad introduce you to sleep physicians.
Okay.
You know, and spend some time there, and learn from them. What are you looking for? What keeps you from sending patients to dentists? Find out what their hesitations are, and learn to be the exact opposite of their hesitations.
Yeah.
So that way that you open yourself up, and so that'll be awesome. So find your passion. I think that'll be great, and then keep learning. I mean, it's awesome that you take so many courses. My only hesitation there is I want you to take courses in areas of passion.
Yeah.
And I think for you, you specifically, and listen, 99% of our listeners as well, me included, is to learn to be a better leader.
Yeah.
And I think our lesson on that is speak last. Allow other people to speak. Allow other people to give a message that they feel is actually being heard. That way you can digest everything, and people will be more comfortable and open to talk to you when you start doing that.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you so much.
Oh, real
I look
quick,
forward to.
how do people get in touch
ahead.
with you?
How do people get in touch with me?
Yeah, you have an email address, correct?
Yes, I have an email address. They can email me at abbymorales1@gmail.com.
Wonderful. And you're on Facebook as well?
I am on Facebook.
So
Yes.
That's Abbey, Abbey Morales.
Yes.
And you actually friend people and stuff?
I do. Yeah.
All right. That's awesome. Thanks again, Abby.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to T-Bone Speaks with Dr. Tarun Agarwal. Remember to keep striving for excellence, and we'll